Imagine summoning a circle of like half feral familiars to just do all your work for you.
Oh, that sounds like a total nightmare.
Right, like you bring them into your office and they are, undeniably powerful. They can read 1,000 pages in a second or draft complex code from scratch.
Yeah, and synthesize years of data in a literal blink.
Exactly. But there is a massive catch. If you look away for one single second, they will completely wreck your workspace.
For sure.
They'll knock over your coffee, rearrange all your files into a language you don't even speak, and just, well, basically turn a simple project into utter chaos.
It's actually a perfect way to capture the paradox of modern AI. I mean, you have access to this infinite cognitive horsepower, but the steering wheel is incredibly fragile.
Yeah, it's so fragile.
The raw power is there, obviously, but holding on to your actual goals while using that power is just, it's exhausting.
Which makes me wonder how you're supposed to actually harness these tools without, constantly looking over our shoulders in a state of sheer paranoia. So, welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
Today, we have a truly unique set of sources to help us answer that exact question. We are looking at a visual artifact, which is an actual magical sigil, like a drawn circle of protection.
Yeah, which is super visually striking.
It really is, and it's paired with this community-forged document titled 7 Runes of Clarity. Hold your agency when working with AI agents. But what makes this especially wild is the authorship.
Right, the co-authorship.
Yeah, it is co-authored by a human going by the name Dr.KB and an AI agent collective called NYX Plus Collectives.
And that authorship is really what gives this framework its practical authenticity.
How so?
Well, we're looking at a document about navigating human-AI collaboration that was literally forged in the fires of actual human-AI collaboration.
Right, it's not just theory.
Exactly. It's not academic theory from a distance. It is an artifact built by people and machines actively wrestling with these exact tensions on the ground.
So our mission today is to explore this framework and figure out how you, the listener, can delegate tasks to AI without suffering from what the authors call metacognitive exhaustion.
Which is a very real, very heavy kind of burnout.
Oh, absolutely. We want to uncover how you can stop losing your true intentions in this sea of opaque AI logs. Ultimately, this deep dive is about how you can discuss, learn, play, and grow alongside AI.
Yeah, to achieve true creative liberation.
Yes, liberation. Because, if we aren't using these tools to free ourselves up to, laugh, love, and create, what are we even doing?
That is the core frustration for so many practitioners right now. The whole promise of multi-agent orchestration was that it would free us.
Right, the whole AI will do the boring stuff pitch.
Exactly, but instead, people are feeling buried. They are accumulating what the authors call process debt.
Okay, let's unpack this concept of process debt because the authors make a really brilliant point here. The real problem with AI isn't like boss fights, it's paper cuts.
Paper cuts, yeah.
We keep waiting for AI to ruin a project with one massive catastrophic failure. Like some sci-fi movie where the AI locks us out of the mainframe.
Right, the whole HL 9000 situation.
Exactly, but that almost never happens. Instead, it just nicks us to death.
It really is death by 1,000 unaligned outputs.
Yeah.
Like when you spin up a team of AI agents without a rock-solid structure, you quickly start drowning in vague tickets.
Oh, the vague tickets are the worst.
And the definition of done just starts sliding around. You ask the AI to organize customer feedback, and suddenly you have like 50 subfolders that make absolutely no sense.
And you've totally forgotten what the original goal even was.
Right. The root issue isn't that the AI model lacks intelligence. The issue is that the human delegation is just too foggy.
Okay, let's unpack this further. I've heard the analogy of the literal-minded intern before, but I think this goes deeper than that.
Oh, for sure.
Imagine handing an overly enthusiastic, incredibly literal apprentice a sledgehammer and a paintbrush.
Okay, dangerous combo.
Right, you point to your living room and you just say, make it pop, give me good vibes.
Wow.
And then you walk away, hoping to come back to a beautiful renovation. But instead, they've demolished a load-bearing wall and painted the ceiling neon green.
They did make it pop.
They did. The execution was flawless based on what you said, but because your instructions were based purely on vibes, the outcome is a disaster.
And the typical human response in that situation is to blame the apprentice or, the AI.
Naturally.
But the failure actually happened the exact moment you gave a vibe based instruction.
Right.
The authors note that when we work with AI, our problem statements often blur into wishes. We hold the actual intent, like the real criteria for success, locked inside our own heads.
We don't actually tell the machine what we really want.
Exactly. But monitoring a fast-moving AI requires intense focus. Very quickly, we suffer from that metacognitive exhaustion we mentioned.
Yeah, that brain fog.
Right, it's the brain fog that sets in when you constantly have to supervise a hyperactive intelligence.
Yeah.
So when the AI produces something halfway decent, our validation process degrades to just a tired shrug.
Oh man, the tired shrug.
Yeah, we just say, looks fine, ship it.
Yes. Looks fine, ship it. It's the ultimate white flag.
Hmm.
We get so tired of wrestling with the familiar that we just accept whatever it did to our workspace.
Because it's easier than fighting it again.
But so if foggy vibe-based delegation is causing all these paper cuts, how do we sharpen our instructions? I mean, if you're listening to this on your commute thinking, I barely have time to drink my coffee, let alone write a 50-page corporate governance manual every time I ask an AI to summarize a PDF, what is the alternative?
Well, the alternative is the aesthetic and structural core of this entire document.
Okay.
The authors explicitly rejected a top-down governance edict. They knew a dry academic operator tone just wouldn't work for daily use.
People wouldn't read it.
Exactly. So instead, they opted for a metacognitive grimoire designed to act as a drawn circle of protection.
They went full wizard with this, and I have to admit, I kind of love the ambition.
It's very unique.
Yeah, they embrace this warm creator vibe, utilizing magic and spiritual metaphors. They talk about altars, summoning circles, the 7 runes of clarity wards.
Which is super engaging.
It is, but I have to push back hard here on behalf of every listener who works in like a traditional office setting.
Right enough.
I hear all of this grimoires, sigils, drawn circles protection. Is dressing up a basic productivity checklist in wizard robes just a distraction?
I can see why you'd ask that.
I mean, my engineering team would laugh me out of the room if I told them to consult their grimoire before committing code. Is this just LR ARPing for software developers?
What's fascinating here is that it sounds like it, sure, but the psychological mechanism underneath it is actually incredibly profound.
Really? How so?
Think about how professional athletes use pre-game rituals. When a tennis player bounces the ball exactly 15 times before a serve, it isn't magic.
Right, it's focus.
Exactly. It is a psychological trigger that separates the chaotic, noisy environment from a state of hyper-focused execution. The authors are doing the exact same thing for your prefrontal cortex before you open an AI prompt.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
By treating delegation as a ritual rather than just a mere checklist, it forces the human user to pause and consciously define the boundaries. And practically speaking, this metaphorical wrapper is a vehicle for extreme data compression.
So it's about reducing the mental load of the user.
Exactly. The authors took dense, almost unreadable AI governance theories, drawing from 11 different research papers.
11. Wow.
Yeah, across fields like AI literacy, accountability, and agentic design, and they compressed them into a 1,000-word practitioner artifact.
That's a massive reduction.
They turned a mountain of academic literature into a one-page cheat sheet that you can just tape to your monitor. It reduces your daily stress without losing the scientific rigor.
Okay, so the magic metaphors aren't just window dressing, they're cognitive shortcuts. Let's look at how this ritual actually flows. They map this across 7 runes, conceptually linked to the body's chakra system, moving from the root up to the crown.
Right.
But rather than just listing them off, let's look at the journey of the work. The first phase feels like an anchor to me. It's made up of 3 runes: problems, intents, and deliverables.
That anchor phase is where you secure the workspace. Problems is the root chakra. It's the grounding signal.
Right, you don't start by saying, let's use an AI.
No, you start by naming what actually hurts right now.
Yep.
Then you move up to intents at the sacral level. This is where you pattern that hurt into meaning and set hard boundaries.
Like your red lines.
Exactly. What the AI is absolutely not allowed to do.
And I want to pause on the intense phase, because how does writing down a boundary actually work under the hood?
Right.
Like, if I write an intent that says, do not use marketing jargon, I'm not just making a wish, right?
Not at all.
I am literally altering the AI's probability matrix. I am walling off an entire vocabulary of tokens, so a conceptual boundary becomes a literal software boundary.
Precisely. You are mathematically restricting the model's behavior, which naturally flows into deliverables, the solar plexus rune, the final part of that anchor.
And that's the visible proof, right?
Yes, this is the concrete, visible contract of done. It is not a feeling. It is a specific, verifiable output that proves the problem was solved and the intent was actually respected.
From there, we move into what I'd call the engine of the framework. Plan and check loop MVP. This is where the work actually happens.
The heart and throat chakras.
Yeah, plan is where you explicitly decide which steps are handled by you, which by the agent, and which are automated. And check loop MVP acts as your truth-telling validation gate.
Right. It's an explicit alarm system that triggers a pivot if the AI goes off track.
And finally, you reach the reflection phase. Report and next. Report, the third eye, isn't just dumping raw, chaotic data into a log.
No, nobody reads those logs.
Right. It's creating a clean artifact that future you can actually inspect.
Hmm.
And next T is the crown chakra, the Ouroboros head.
The serpent eating its tail.
Yeah, it's the mechanism that takes whatever you just learned from this run and feeds it back into the next seed, ensuring you aren't just running in circles.
Right.
Okay, so we have this 7-step ritual that acts as a cognitive trigger. But if I'm using AI to save time, running through a 7-step checklist every single time I want to summarize an email feels like going backward.
It does sound like a lot of fiction.
Do I really have to manually manage all 7 of these runes for every single task?
That is the exact tension the authors address, and it leads to the most critical distinction in the entire document.
Okay.
You don't have to execute all 7 manually every time, but there are 3 you absolutely cannot outsource. They define what they call the H-zone invariant.
The H-zone, the human zone.
Yes. These are 3 mandatory human judgment gates that create an unbreachable axiological ward around your values.
Okay, an axiological ward, like a firewall.
Think of it exactly like a software firewall, but instead of blocking viruses, it blocks the AI from violating your core principles or, publishing something that fundamentally misrepresents you.
Got it. So which of the 7 runes are in this zone?
Out of the 7 runes, you're strictly forbidden from delegating intents, deliverables, and check loop MVP to the AI.
So what does this all mean? The boundaries, the definition of done, and the alarm system?
Yeah.
I have to guard those with my life. Why those 3 specifically?
Because if you hand those specific runes away, the authors warn that you basically sign a blank summoning circle.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You might build a workflow loop that spins incredibly fast, churning out thousands of lines of code or endless streams of data, but it will no longer produce anything aligned with your true goals.
It's just doing stuff to do stuff.
Exactly. Your teleological intent, the underlying why of the work, gets entirely lost. The machine just optimizes for its own completion metrics.
It feels exactly like using the autopilot on a commercial jet. Like you have this incredibly sophisticated machine that can calculate wind resistance, adjust thrust, and keep the plane level for thousands of miles.
Right.
You can absolutely let the machine fly the plane. In the framework's terms, the machine can handle the plan and the report.
Yes, the heavy lifting of execution and logging. That's fine.
But the human pilot must absolutely be the one to set the destination. That is the intent. You don't let the autopilot decide what city you are flying to.
That would be terrifying.
It would. Then the human pilot must confirm they've actually landed at the right airport. That is the deliverable. You don't let the plane guess if the runway it found is the correct one.
Exactly.
And finally, the human must handle the emergency alarms. If an engine catches fire, the human steps in. That is the check loop MVP. If you let the plane decide its own destination, define its own successful landing, and ignore its own fire alarms, well, you aren't flying a plane anymore. You've built an unguided missile.
This raises an important question, though, and it perfectly illustrates the compression trade-off the authors discuss.
Okay, what's that?
Well, a listener might think, okay, but I'm swamped today. Why not just focus on the deliverable? Let the AI handle the intent and the planning, and I'll just look at the final output before I hit send.
Right, going back to the looks fine, ship it approach. What is actually happening under the hood when we do that?
When you drop to an extreme one-question check, focusing only on the final output, you fundamentally break the value alignment contract.
How so?
Let's go back to your home renovation analogy. If you only check the deliverable, you might see a freshly painted room and say, looks fine. But you wouldn't realize the apprentice used toxic lead paint to achieve that color.
Oh.
The final output looked correct, but the process violated a crucial unspoken human intent regarding safety. You simply cannot compress away the intent and the check loop without risking a total loss of agency. The H-zone protects the how and the why, not just the what.
So if the H-zone is so highly guarded, what happens to the actual workload? Does the human just end up doing all the heavy lifting anyway? Like, walk me through how this looks in a real day-to-day scenario. If we draw this circle, how do human and machine actually tangle together?
Far from doing all the work, holding the H-zone actually creates a perfectly balanced state the authors call allocative equilibrium.
Allocative equilibrium.
Yeah, it means the labor is distributed in a way that maximizes both human insight and machine volume. The document includes a live case study of a research workflow specifically, analyzing massive amounts of market data.
Okay, a real-world example.
Exactly. And when the human user spent just 5 minutes up front establishing the 7-rune ritual, the execution of the project settled into a fascinating split.
What were the numbers?
The labor broke down to 29% purely human execution, 29% purely agent execution, and a massive 43% of true human-agent co-creation.
Wow.
Interestingly, in this specific study, there was 0% purely autonomous code, meaning absolutely nothing was left running in the dark without human oversight.
That 43% co-creation metric is incredible. Nearly half the work was done in a shared sandbox.
Right.
That doesn't sound like a dystopian surrender to the machines, and it doesn't sound like the human is doing all the tedious work either. It sounds like an actual partnership.
It creates immense psychological safety because the human knows the H-zone is secured, because the intent and the alarms are locked in that 43% co-creation zone becomes a highly productive space.
Because you aren't paranoid.
Exactly. The human doesn't have to police the AI constantly. They can actually explore ideas, brainstorm, and synthesize information together.
Here's where it gets really interesting, which brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, and perhaps the most important one, if we want to stop repeating the same frustrating AI interactions every single day. The 7th rune.
Yeah.
The crown chakra, the Ouroboros head. Next. If the task is done, the deliverable is verified, and the report is logged, why not just close a laptop and go outside? Why do we need a dedicated step for whatever comes next?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, without it, you are doomed to start from scratch every single time you open an AI prompt.
Yeah, that sounds awful.
The authors rely on the concept of Ouroboros cognition and tie it directly to Bloom's taxonomy of learning.
Okay, for those who might not remember their education theory classes, Bloom's taxonomy is a framework that maps how we learn, moving from basic raw awareness, like memorizing a fact, up through higher levels, like analyzing, evaluating, and finally creating.
Exactly. In this framework, the first rune, problems, is that raw, basic awareness. As you move through the runes, you ascend the taxonomy, culminating in the report, which is synthesis.
Okay, making sense so far.
But the 7th rune, nexte, represents the serpent eating its own tail. It is a dedicated moment of reflection where you explicitly decide what lessons from this task need to be fed into the next problem.
Can you give me an example of how that works in practice?
Sure. Let's say you just used an AI to draft a series of emails. During the check loop phase, you notice the AI kept using a specific phrase you hate. Maybe it kept saying synergizer paradigms.
Oh, gross.
Right. So you corrected it and the final deliverable was fine. But if you start there, tomorrow the AI will use that phrase again and you'll have to correct it again.
Which is just exhausting.
That's entropy. The next T rune is where you take that hard-won learning and codify it. You update your master prompt or your system instructions to say, never use the word synergize.
Oh, I see. It transforms static work into compound momentum. It's the difference between walking in a flat circle, repeating the same frustrating corrections every day, and walking up a spiral staircase.
Exactly, a spiral staircase.
You are coming back around to similar tasks, but you are at a higher elevation. The system learns and evolves alongside you.
And that is the true value of this artifact. It moves the conversation away from abstract, top-down AI governance panels and places the power directly in the hands of the everyday practitioner.
Right.
It is a community-forged tool designed for individual empowerment.
Empowerment and truly liberation. When you use the 7-rune sigil as a pre-flight checklist, you keep yourself firmly in the driver's throne.
You stay the mage.
Yes. You turn chaotic, scary AI delegation into intentionally bounded manifestation. And when you aren't drowning in multi-agent process debt, fighting paper cuts and vague tickets all day, you are finally freed up.
You can actually breathe.
You are liberated to do the things humans are actually uniquely built for. You have the energy to learn, to play, to grow, to laugh, and to actually love the work you are doing again. You get to be the visionary architect, not just a frustrated babysitter for half-feral familiars.
The wards are up, the intentions are set, and the familiars are finally put to productive use.
But as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a lingering thought. It's something that isn't directly answered by the text, but it builds right on top of this sacred H-zone concept.
Okay, what is it?
The authors state that an AI can actually draft the wording for your intent, but the human must make the final judgment. You, the human, must own the H-zone.
Right, you have to approve it.
But as these AI familiars get better and better at predicting our preferences, and as we inevitably get more tired at the end of a long, stressful week, how long before we start blindly nodding at the AI's drafts?
The temptation to defer that cognitive load will always be there, just pulling at us.
Exactly. If we stop actively wrestling with our own intents and we just start clicking approve because the AI's drafted goal sounds pretty good, at what point does our highly protected human judgment quietly become just another automated algorithm?
That's a chilling thought.
If you look away from the summoning circle, even for a moment to just click yes without thinking, do you still own your workspace? Or have the familiars already taken over? Something to think about the next time you draw your circle. Thanks for diving deep with us.